Airstrike on a Russian troop concentration. The building was completely taken down. Precise Ukrainian airstrike hits a concentration of Russian troops in temporarily occupied Novokakhovka, Kherson region. Precise airstrikes on Russian troops are common practice now. A line of destroyed Russian passenger cars near Chasiv Yar after they attempted to blow up a section of the Seversky-Donetsk-Donbass Canal. However, all vehicles were hit with intense fire from Ukrainian bombers. Footage from the 427th Separate Unmanned Systems Regiment, Warthog. Russia's use of civilian vehicles, cars, scooters, ATVs, even bicycles on the battlefield highlights a critical issue: lack of armored transport. These improvised solutions offer zero protection against small arms, shrapnel, or mines. It's not innovation, it's desperation. Armored vehicles are either too few, destroyed, or unavailable. Every civilian car on the front line tells a story of logistical failure and high-risk improvisation. It's a brutal sign of how stretched and under-equipped Russian forces really are. And it's not just about transport. When troops rely on scooters or bikes, it signals a breakdown in military supply chains. These aren't fast response forces. They're exposed, vulnerable, and easy targets. Using ATVs across rough terrain might seem tactical, but without armor, it's a gamble with lives. Even worse, civilian vehicles can't handle the rigors of war. No reinforced suspension, no protection, no comms. It shows how Russia is plugging holes in its force with whatever it can find, cheap, fast, and expendable. It's a patchwork army on wheels, and that tells us one thing clearly: Russia is struggling to sustain a professional mechanized force in a prolonged war. In modern warfare, mobility without protection is a death sentence. These civilian rides aren't strategy. They're symptoms of a military stretched past its limits. Despite Russian claims of capturing the frontline village of Bahatur, Ukrainian soldiers from Ukraine's 33rd Mechanized Brigade showed the situation on the ground. It still holds presence in the village despite all claims. It's a familiar pattern. Moscow announces victories, but the front lines say otherwise. This gap between propaganda and battlefield truth isn't just misleading. It's designed to mask failure and boost morale at home. But on the ground, control isn't won with headlines. It's earned meter by meter, and Ukraine's still there holding the line. Claims don't change maps, boots on the ground do. And as long as Ukrainian forces remain in Bahatur, Russia's so-called victory is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Our goal is to bring everyone home. We start with 1,000, said Rustam Umarov, Ukraine's Minister of Defense, ahead of a coordination council meeting on prisoners of war. He emphasized that the priority is to return all captives and political prisoners, including those from Crimea, especially on this day of the deportation of the Crimean Tatar people.
Our task is to bring everyone back. We start with 1,000. Today, the focus is on prisoners of war, so we will now speak at the Coordination Headquarters Council with all structures. The President has tasked us to organize and present him with a clear plan, actions, and return everyone to their families as soon as possible. We want to bring everyone back in terms of political prisoners. As you know, today, day of the deportation of the Crimean Tatar people. Therefore, all political prisoners from Crimea are also being discussed.
Panorama of Toretsk, a Ukrainian city obliterated by Russian liberators, where bloody battles have raged for 11 months since June 18, 2024. The battle for Toretsk has turned into a bloodbath for Russian forces. Wave after wave of assaults met with entrenched Ukrainian defenses, and the cost has been brutal. Drone footage shows destroyed armor littering the approaches, and intercepted comms reveal panic and disarray in Russian ranks. Units, often undertrained and poorly coordinated, are being thrown into the meat grinder with minimal support. These aren't strategic offensives, they're desperate pushes, paid for with bodies. Russia is bleeding men and machines for inches of ground, and so far Ukrainian forces are holding firm. For every advance attempted, Russia pays a steep price in lives and equipment, and Toretsk remains contested, not conquered. Steve Witoff, who was tricked by Russian intelligence on a meeting with Putin, says, "We've managed to reduce the disagreements between Ukraine and Russia."
Look, John, we had direct negotiations in Istanbul. There were some good achievements made, including the release of hostages. We have to get to a ceasefire. That's the president's position, and we all agree with that position. And most importantly, we have to get to a final peace deal. And the president has a force of personality that is unmatched. I think it's important. His sensibilities are that he's got to get on the phone with President Putin, and that is going to clear up some of the logjam and get us to the place that we need to get to. And I think it's going to be a very successful call. I want to leave it to, I want to be a bit more positive about this. I believe that the president is going to have a successful call with Vladimir Putin. They know each other. The president is determined to get something done here, and hopefully, if he can't do it, then nobody can. So I leave it to the two leaders to have that call.
Belgium is testing a Leopard 1, a 5-tank equipped with an unmanned Cockerill 3105 turret in Ukraine, a potential upgrade that could modernize over 100 tanks. The new configuration, featuring a 105mm gun and improved combat capabilities, is part of a €1 billion aid package to Ukraine. If successful, it may lead to large-scale upgrades for the Leopard 1 fleet, enhancing fire support capabilities. On Sunday night, Russia directed over 150 drones on Kyiv region. In Vasilkiv, 27-year-old Anna covered her 4-year-old son Mark with her body to protect him during the attack. Anna was killed. Mark was injured in the face. Doctors are fighting to save his eyesight. His grandma and grandpa were also injured and are in the hospital. Deepest condolences to the family. Polish customs seized 5 metric tons of tires for civilian Boeing aircraft, which were due to transit through Belarus and Russia in an attempt to circumvent EU sanctions. We are repeatedly talking that the issue of Russia looking for workarounds against sanctions is important. Sanctions won't work if Russia finds loopholes in them. Officers discovered during the inspection of a truck in Kherson that the driver was transporting tires used in Boeing civil planes instead of the declared car and bus tires. The sender of the goods was a company from Spain, and the recipient was from Azerbaijan. Criminal fiscal proceedings were initiated in connection with customs fraud. The sanctioned goods were detained, the National Revenue Administration said. Security Service of Ukraine destroyed a Russian radar and warehouses on gas production platforms in the Black Sea with surface and air drones. Defenders from the 13th Main Directorate of the Military Counterintelligence Department of the SSU conducted a combined special operation using sea and air drones. Its target was Russian radar equipment located on Ukrainian gas production platforms. First, one of the towers was hit by a drone from the air, and then a sea drone fired at it. As a result of the attack, the Neva radar, which Russia used to monitor the air and surface situation, was destroyed, as well as warehouses and a residential block on the tower. Within one special operation, SSU specialists used 2 types of drones, which demonstrated the effectiveness of pair work. We once again reminded the enemy that no Russian junk has a place in the Black Sea, the Security Service of Ukraine noted. With the help of surface drones, the security service managed to hit the Crimean Bridge and 11 Russian warships, which ultimately allowed to reduce the dominance of the Russian Federation in the Black Sea and restore the grain corridor. Danish military expert Anders Nielsen on the Istanbul talks.
On the one hand, the media has managed to create so much hype about it that many people actually thought that there was going to be a meeting between Putin and Zelensky on Thursday. But on the other hand, pretty much every expert who knows something about these things repeatedly said that that is not going to happen, and there is no circumstance where this meeting is going to take place. So to quickly recap what happened, It actually started with Russia's unilateral announcement of a 3-day ceasefire that they had in connection with the Victory Day parade on May the 9th. So Ukraine and its Western partners decided that if Russia can declare a ceasefire unilaterally, then Ukraine can do the same. So they came up with this idea that they would present Russia with an ultimatum, that if Russia did not agree to a 30-day ceasefire by last Monday, then there would be significant new sanctions on Russia and increased military assistance to Ukraine. Putin's response to that was that Russia does not believe that there should be a ceasefire, but that instead we should just move straight to direct negotiations about a final peace settlement instead of having a ceasefire. And this would be a continuation of the Istanbul talks that took place in the early days of Russia's invasion in 2022. But by floating this idea of negotiations in Istanbul, Putin basically gave Donald Trump an excuse to continue doing nothing, and Donald Trump was happy to do that. So he posted on social media that this seemed like a good opportunity for Zelensky to have a meeting, and Zelensky, the Ukrainian, should definitely take that meeting. So everyone but Donald Trump could see that this was not a genuine offer about negotiations. It was just a Russian delay tactic, but Donald Trump was happy to go with it. So a personal meeting between Zelensky and Putin. And the idea was that by doing this, then Ukraine would demonstrate once again to Donald Trump that they have unconditional commitment to any initiative that can bring about peace. And then if Putin didn't show up personally, then that would show a smaller Russian commitment. So that's how the media got this idea that there was going to be a meeting between Zelensky and Putin on Thursday. In reality, that was never going to happen. First, the Russians clearly don't want to give the impression that Ukraine can dictate when there will be a meeting that involves Putin. So, as frustrating as it is to watch all these things and observe this absolute embarrassment of American diplomacy that has been happening over the last week, it has, after all, so far not had catastrophic consequences for Ukraine. And I think that's also important to keep in mind, even though it's really frustrating.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.